Are we at John chapter 3 and verse 16? If so, say yes, Johnny. Very, very well-known verse. For God so loved this world that he gave, that he sent his only begotten Son to this world, that whoever believes in him, whoever believes in Jesus, will not perish, but will be saved, will have everlasting life. John chapter 3, we thank God today for Jesus. Sometimes I think that life is like a game of chess, that you need to, in some way, plan ahead. Anybody played chess before? Not too many. Chess is kind of a bit of a dying art, a dying game, because now kids, all they want to do is play Fortnite. And so all these kind of board games, aren't as, like chess and that there's not too many kids, I don't think, that are growing up nowadays that are playing chess. But I think that life is like a game of chess where you need to move ahead and you need to make the right moves. All of this year we have been talking on the subject and discussing around the subject of knowing Christ, of knowing God. We're going to kind of sidetrack from that today, because today I want to talk to you on making the right move. Making the right move. You see, the thing about a game of chess, the thing about this thing called life, is that in a game of chess you're playing an opponent, but in this game of life, your opponent is actually you. It's not your neighbor. It's not the person that's posting up all this stuff on Facebook about you. It's not about the person that's posting up all the stuff that's going on in their life on Facebook, so you have to match that and you have to put on your photographs. Your opponent is not other people. Your greatest opponent in life is you. Whenever we come to sports, and we often think that, and looking ahead at the finals for this week, it's Arsenal against Chelsea, it's Liverpool against Spurs, or if you're looking at a boxing match or anything at all, whenever it comes to sports, there's very often always an opponent that you have to beat. But before you beat the opponent that you're coming to face with, you must beat the opponent within. You've got to know in yourself that I can win. You've got to know that as you go out and take your place on the field, on the pitch, wherever it is, that you've got to know in here, I've got this. Because if you haven't won it in here or up here, then forget about going out. I love, whenever it comes to boxing, I love the build-up to the boxing matches, because it's all like they're in each other's faces and they're trash-talking each other, and it's like the game's already started. The boxing match has already started. The Europa League final has already started. The Champions League final is a week away, but it's already started. The referee may not have blown the whistle, but the match has already started. For the players, the match has already started. Everything that they have been doing for the last couple of weeks and everything that they will do for the next 7 days is all about the game. The game in their heads has already started. And they must get into a place where they know, I've got this. If they're waiting for the referee to blow the whistle, then they're not going to be ready. And their greatest opponents before they take to the field will be themselves. Your greatest opponent in life is yourself. You need to believe that you can win. You need to be in the right frame of mind. What you think is an integral predecessor to what you can achieve. If you can't think that you can be successful in an area, then you will not be successful in that area, because you've already beaten yourself. You are your greatest opponent in life. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. Amen. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Whatever you think, that's what you are. Whatever you think, that's what you will become. It all starts up here. How you think. You are your greatest opponent. Your thoughts are important. Your thoughts are significant. In the walking out of your life, your thoughts are extremely, highly significant and will determine success or failure in your life. Your greatest opponent is you. And so life is like a game of chess. The objective of the game of chess is to capture the king. As you sit down at the board, you have your players against your opponent's players, and your objective is to capture the king. But in order to capture the king, you've got to make the right move. Very often in life, we find ourselves in situations, sometimes desperate situations, but situations where we need to make the right move. The overall objective, capture the king, get to the king. But in order to do that, you've got to make the right move. And so we face these moments in life, these situations in life where we've got to make the right move. The problem is that sometimes, very often in life, we are faced with desperate situations and desperate circumstances. And sometimes we come up with this, you'll have heard this said, that desperate times calls for desperate measures. And so very often the move is not necessarily the right move, it's a desperate move. And a desperate move is not always the right move. It's a desperate move. And so I'm challenging you today, make the right move. Don't make a desperate move, but make the right move. Sometimes the most desperate move is the right move, sometimes it isn't. But we got to make the right move. And there are people in this place today, and you have made a move at some point of your life, and it has turned out to be the wrong move. You're living with the consequences of that move years later. The Bible is filled, and we're going to look at some stories of people who have made a move, sometimes the right move, sometimes the wrong move. King David, we're told that he was on his balcony, he's on his palace balcony, and he's looking out, and we were told that it was at the time whenever kings go to war. And David is in his palace, he hasn't gone to war. The move that he should have made should have been to take his army and lead them into battle. But he stays at the palace, and as he's looking out over the palace, he comes across a woman. Her name is Bathsheba. Takes a liking to Bathsheba. Asks the question, who is this woman? This is Uriah's wife. Uriah was in the army, and Uriah's off fighting for the king. The king makes a wrong move. Will you bring Bathsheba to me? Bathsheba becomes pregnant. And David is faced then with the consequence of that, because one thing leads to another, and he tries to get Uriah back to be with Bathsheba so he can pass it off as Uriah's. Uriah comes home but doesn't go with Bathsheba, stays at the palace gate. So David's next move is, let's send him into the front lines so that he'll die. Sends him off to the front lines, and he dies, and David takes Bathsheba. But as a result of this disobedience, the child dies. A consequence of a wrong move. And there are consequences to the moves that we make. And as we line up in this game of chess, in this game of life, then our objective is to capture the king. But any old move will not do. You see, we have certain players that make certain moves. We've got the bishop that can slide diagonally as far as he wants. We've got the castle that can go up and across. We've got the little horsey that can go up two and left or right, or across two and up one. But any old move will not do. We've got to make the right moves, and we've got to plan ahead. We've got to think, because the objective is to get to the king. And so it's not enough just to say, well, I'll throw my bishop up here. It's not enough just to say, well, I'll put my little horsey here, and we're not thinking about what we're trying to achieve. There has to be thought in order to make the right move. And any old move in life will not do. There will be consequences to the moves that you make. And sometimes you just, doesn't matter, we'll just do it anyway. Everyone else is doing it, so, yeah, why not? We've got to think about the moves that we're making, and we've got to make the right move in order to capture the king. Let me share with you just a few stories of people who had to make moves in the Bible. We've learned there about David making a wrong move. In 2 Kings in chapter 7, there's this story of what's going on. Let me give you kind of a backdrop before I explain what is actually happening in the story. Because you've got 4 lepers that are sitting at a city gate, having a decision to make. What has happened, we're in Samaria, and the Arameans have surrounded the city. And there's been this blockade, so there's no food going into the city. And you've got this king that is locked up in his city with people. And they can't get out because they know if they open the doors and they go out, then the Arameans are going to slaughter them. They open the door and let the Arameans in, then they're going to come in and slaughter them. Either way, they've got to stay alive as long as they can. And things are so desperate that the king has this conversation with the woman. And the woman begins to question the king on, do something for us. You've got to get us food. And the king's like, if God can't help you, then I can't help you. And they come to an arrangement. This is how desperate it is. This is the arrangement that they come to. The king says, today we'll cook my son and eat him. And tomorrow we'll cook your son and eat him. That's how desperate this situation had become. They cook the king's son and they eat him. The next day the woman hides her son. She's no mug. And this is how desperate this situation had become. And so in the midst of this, you've got these 4 lepers that are kind of in between. They're not in Samaria because they're lepers and they're not allowed in there. It's contagious. Leprosy is contagious, and they can't go till the Arameans in fear that they'll be slaughtered. And so they're sitting in this wilderness in the desert in between. And they have this discussion among themselves because they know we need to make a move here. And this is what they discuss. They talk about, listen, if we stay here, we're going to die. We can't go into Samaria because that's all blocked up and they'll not let us in. Let's go to the camp of the Arameans. The chances are they're going to kill us. The chances are they're going to slaughter us. But listen, we're going to die here anyway. Let's make a move. And they make a move. And they go to the camp of the Arameans. And there's a miracle that takes place. Because as they go to the camp of the Arameans, they discover that the Arameans aren't there. The Arameans have fled. And they have left everything. They have left all their gold, all their silver, all their horses, all their donkeys. Everything is still there. The tents, they've just disappeared. And they've gone. God worked a miracle. And as they go into the camp, they're found they've got food, they've got gold, they've got silver. And they're able to go back to Samaria and to say to those to the king and those that are blocked in, there's food here. The Arameans, they have gone. Everything is theirs and everything is now yours. They made a move. They came to this conclusion. If we stay here, nothing is going to change and we're going to die anyway. Maybe you're in that situation. Maybe you're in a circumstance where it's just like nothing's changing. Make a move. I challenge you today to make the right move. There's a story in John chapter 5 of a man who wouldn't make a move. And it's at a pool it's called the Pool of Bethesda. It was in Jerusalem. And what happened in those days, there in the pool, around that pool there would be gathered people who would be disabled in some kind of way, have some kind of an infirmity, who would need healing. And what would happen is that as they were seated around the pool then, an angel would come down and would stir the waters, and the first person into the pool would be healed. And he's been sitting in this pool for 38 years. 38 years, Sylvia. I kid you not. With an opportunity to get into the pool. But he doesn't make a move. And Jesus comes up to him and says, what's going on here? And he says, well, everybody gets in before me. And he wouldn't make a move. He knows. He's been there for 38 years, so he knows what happens. He knows how this works. If it was me, I'd be sitting on the edge of the pool watching. As soon as I see an angel coming, then I'd be in. 38 years not making a move. Maybe you're in that position where you've been in the same situation. Maybe not 38 years, but maybe 18 years, maybe 20 years, I don't know. And you haven't made a move. And nothing has changed. Same old, same old. Different day. Make a move. Make the right move. Let me give you just a couple more and then we're going to come to a close. In Mark chapter 5, one of my favorite stories, is Jesus he's got this reputation. And there's this leader of the synagogue. He's a Jewish leader. He's a religious leader. And the religious people had issues with Jesus. The religious people had problems with Jesus. The religious people, they didn't like Jesus. It was religion that killed Jesus. It was religion that had Jesus nailed to a cross. It was the religious people that made up lies and told stories about Jesus, had him arrested, had him tried, and had him nailed to a cross. That's what religion does. And this leader of the synagogue, his name is Jairus, he sends a message to Jesus saying, my daughter, she's sick. Can you come and can you lay hands on her? Can you pray for her? Can you heal her? You know, it's kind of weird how that whatever we think of God and whatever we think of Jesus, whenever we're put into a situation, how that all of a sudden our thoughts toward God change. All of a sudden, because we're in this situation that's totally out of our control, for a lot of people it's, yeah, okay, you know, let's give this God thing a go. Listen, I have absolutely no problems with that whatsoever. Believe me, I have no problems with that whatsoever. My cousin got saved because he got cancer. I sat with him. I went to visit him in the hospital. And we sat on the hospital bed. And he said, I want to become a Christian. And he said, he knew it's only because he got cancer. I sat with him on the bed, and his words to me, I'll never forget, was, I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm cheating. I said, Paul, you are. You are. But the bottom line is, we all do. Because there's not one person who ever lived who deserves to be born again, who deserves the blood of Jesus Christ to be shed for them. We have all sinned. And not one of us deserves the life that Jesus Christ offers. Not one of us deserves eternity in heaven with Jesus Christ. But yet that's the gift that he gives, that gift of grace. And it doesn't matter how you come, as long as you come to Jesus. We sat on that hospital bed and we prayed. He got saved, came to this church, served communion, was praying and hoping that God would heal him. Passed away of cancer. But I would rather that he got cancer, made his life right with God, got saved, got born again, and spends eternity in heaven, than to live his whole life having everything and yet die without Christ. What does it profit a man that he gains the whole world yet loses his soul? He was forced into a situation where he had to make a move. And I thank God today that he made that right move. And so you have this Jewish leader, this synagogue leader, who is in a situation where he needs to make a move. And the move that he makes is the right move. Because it's a move towards Jesus. He could have made a move anywhere else, but the move that he makes is a move towards Jesus. Jesus, will you come? Will you spend time in my home? Will you come? Will you come to my daughter? Will you lay hands on her? Can you heal her, Jesus? Because I've been seeing all the miracles that you've been doing with other people, and I've been hearing reports, and yeah, I might have said some things that were out of order. I might have said some lies about you, and I might not have believed in you, but I'm desperate, Jesus. Will you come? Will you touch my daughter? He made a move towards Jesus. Jesus answers and responds and says, yes, I will go. I will go. Whenever you make a move towards Jesus, He will make a move towards you. And Jesus says, yes, I'll go. So Jesus is on his way to Jairus' house. And as he's on his way to Jairus' house, because Jesus has this amazing reputation, and everywhere he goes, the crowds gather round. And so Jesus is trying to get to Jairus' house, and he's struggling because there's hundreds of people that are gathered around Jesus. The whole city just gathers around him. They want a touch of Jesus. They want to hear from him. They want to see him. They want him to touch them. They maybe bring in their sick friends and family members saying, Jesus, will you touch this person? Will you touch that person? Jesus has got this amazing reputation that everybody wants to touch him. And he's struggling and he's trying to get to Jairus' house. But there's people that are gathered around him. And among those people, there's this one woman. She's called a woman with an issue of blood. She's been bleeding for 12 years. And she knows, I've got to make a move to Jesus. I've tried everything. I've tried the doctors, I've tried the surgeons, I've tried the physicians, I've tried the religion. No one has been able to help me. For 12 years, I have been going through this issue of blood, this issue of bleeding, and I can't do anything else. I've spent all my money. I've got to make a move to Jesus. And Jesus is surrounded by people. And this woman has to fight her way to get to Jesus. She's got to fight through the distractions. She's got to fight through the hindrances. She's got to fight through the thoughts in her head. I'll not be able to get to him. There's too many people. I'll not be able to get to him. I must have done something wrong in life, to have this problem and this issue. Then I don't deserve Jesus to heal me. I don't deserve that. No, it's okay. No, there's too many people. No, she knows. She knows that's my answer. My answer is Jesus Christ. The religious man knew his answer was Jesus Christ. This woman with this infirmity knows my answer will only be found in Jesus Christ. I have got to get to Jesus Christ, and nothing is going to stop me, and nothing is going to hinder me. There are many people in this place who have been in this situation where they knew, I've got to get to Jesus. And as they reach out, they grab hold of Jesus. And this woman must do the same. And she's got to fight her way through the crowds in order to get to Jesus. And she knows in her mind, if I can just get a touch of his garment, if I can just touch him, that will be enough. And she reaches out, she's fighting through. I can imagine getting elbowed and getting punched and all these men that are all there as well, and just these crowds, and she's getting pushed. Maybe she's fallen to the ground and she gets back up again, and she knows, I've got to get to Jesus. And as she reaches out, she touches him. And as she touches him, instantly she's healed. And Jesus stops. Jesus is trying to get to Jairus' daughter, and Jesus stops. And he says, who touched me? And the disciples are like, Jesus, everybody touching you. Look at the many people that are gathered around here. Everyone's touching you. And Jesus, no. I felt power leave my body. And he turns, sees the woman. And his response, it's okay. Your faith has made you well. She had to reach out and she had to grab hold of Jesus. She had to make her way to Jesus. She had to get hold of him. Jesus, the King of Kings. The King of Kings. Our answer is in the King. And we've got to make a move in order to capture the King. That's what Jairus had to do. He knew it's in Jesus. The woman knew it's in Jesus. I've got to get hold of the King. I've got to make the right move, and I've got to capture the King. I love the story in Luke chapter 15 of the prodigal son, and with this I'm going to finish. Another young man who had made so many wrong moves in life. So many wrong moves in life. But eventually he makes the right move. And he goes to his father and he says, I want my share of the inheritance. And basically what he is saying to the father is, you're dead. That was the message that he was given to his father. You're dead. I want my share of the inheritance. And the father says, okay. Gives him his share of the inheritance. And he sends him on his way. He leaves. He wastes all of his money. Wastes it in wild living. Drugs and alcohol and parties and anything that he could get his hands on, women. Whatever it was, that was his lifestyle until it's all gone. Whenever that's all gone, then the friends are all gone. And he's sitting in a desperate situation. And he knows, I've got to make a right move. I've got to get back to the Father's house. The Bible says that he came to his senses. He says, I'm going to go home. And he has all this speech prepared. But what he doesn't know is that all the while he's been out living the way he's been living, is that his father has been at the door of the house on a daily basis watching for his son to return. Watching and waiting. Is this going to be the day when he comes back? And eventually, this one day, he sees this figure on the horizon. It looks like him. It's a bit far away, but I think it's him. And the father runs to the son. The father runs to the son. You see, as you make your move towards the king will make a move towards you. Your objective, capture the king. Capture the king. Make the right move and capture the king.